Making up the boxy jacket sewing pattern 647, part 6, the final episode. In part 5 I set in the sleeves and added the shoulder pads and the sleeve head. I have created the silhouette I visualised. And just to remind you, this version is a little shorter than the pattern. Now we need to attach the sleeve lining to the bodice lining. Make sure the sleeve lining is straight. The top tailor tack aligns with the shoulder seam, and I have two sleeve seams that will align with the tailor tacks on the bodice. I need to work right sides together, so matching this point where the front sleeve seam meets the tailor tack, I'm holding onto it and getting inside. So I have a starting point for matching the sleeve lining with the bodice lining. Pin and follow the seam around the back armhole. Matching the tailor tack at the sleeve underarm with the bodice side seam. And the back sleeve seam with the tailor tack on the bodice. I am making sure I match on the seam line, not the raw edge. Next I match the double notches. Match the top tailor tack with the shoulder seam. Matching all the relevant points, continue down the front armhole. There will be some fullness to lose at the sleeve crown, but small tucks or gathers are okay. This can appear somewhat awkward, but the result is very neat. There are other ways to do this. For example, I often include the bodice lining in the armhole seam when I set in the sleeve. Then slip stitch the sleeve lining over the armhole seam. So fill in the gaps with a few more pins. Baste before machining and clip the seam allowance as necessary. The lining is complete apart from the hem. To stop the lining from moving about, it is a good idea to anchor it to the jacket in a couple of places. Turn the sleeve inside out. Get inside again and locate the lining shoulder seam. Tuck the sleeve head out of the way. Match the jacket shoulder seam to the lining seam and make a few loose basting stitches across the top of the crown. Stitching the 2 armhole seam allowances together, keep the stitching loose so as not to distort the set of the sleeve. And also loosely secure at the underarm in the same way. The lining should then stay put. So we are nearly finished. I just have the hem to do, apart from adding buttons and buttonholes, of course. I have left the lining unstitched here so that I can finish by hand. I'm going to mitre the corner as I did with the cuffs, but I have a little more room this time. So I have my straight edge of the button band, taking a line at 45 degrees through the corner point, fold along that line and machine at 90 degrees. I am making a very narrow hem because of my fabric restriction. I was going to create a false hem, but if I feel this hem doesn't have enough weight, I can add a Chanel style chain to the inside. I will use herringbone stitch to secure the hem in place, and I will fold in the seam allowance along the lining edge and baste. And I will slip stitch the lining in place at the corners. So the mitre is stitched. I'm cutting into the point. I'm trimming it up a bit. I can then spread the seam allowance out to give some padding at the corner. It will be easier for you as you will have a deeper hem, but I'm doing my best in the spirit of #use what you have. The raw edges will be covered when the lining is slip stitched in place. I have basted both hems. I will use herringbone stitch for the main hem. You can see that the lining lower edge is just about level with the hem. Slip stitching the lining at the top of the hem will give me enough ease so that the jacket hangs without restraint. At the corners I will make the lining hem a little bit shorter and slip stitch in place. Herringbone stitch is easy, quick and neatens the edge at the same time. If my hem was wider, I probably would blind hem by machine. The idea is just to take a few threads so that the stitches don't show on the right side. But this fabric is very forgiving. Even the worst hand sewing won't show on this lovely Harris tweed. Slip stitch the lining to the front facing. So pin the lining just below the top of the hem and slip stitch in place. At the centre back, make a pleat which mirrors the pleat where the lining joins the back facing. This gives some ease across the back. The jacket is finished apart from buttons and buttonholes. The centre line is 1/2 inch from the fold, giving a 1 inch overlap for the button band. You will start your buttonholes just over the centre line on the right side. The buttons will be sewn on the centre line of the left side. 2 buttons at the cuff perhaps. You don't necessarily need to stitch buttonholes. In fact, I like the jacket without buttons. I can't wait to wear it with the 545 semi-fitted shirt that I made a few years ago. The jabot frill at the front, the flattering neck and the cuffs emerging from the open vent of the 3/4 length sleeves. I will be making this shirt up again in cream or white silk, or even a vivid colour, especially to wear with this jacket. This pattern is also available on my website, along with a detailed e-book on how to make it. My 1 metre of Harris tweed has been fully exploited. Pictures will be published soon. Download the pattern, drafted across 9 sizes, from angelakane.com. Please subscribe to my channel, and thank you so much for watching.